All right, my friends, welcome to the Contractor Sales Academy podcast. Steve, Eric, what's going on, guys?
Not much. Beautiful day in Maryland, man. It's July the 7th. I don't know what day the podcast is coming out, but it's typical here, Maryland hot weather, but beautiful.
I'm living the dream. I've actually gotten caught up so much and sold out so far that I'm actually going out with my team and just playing in the field.
Nice. How far out is that?
We're through September now.
That's a nice feeling, isn't it, man? You know, it's funny. It's funny. A million years ago in July, with painting and stuff, I would start in July freaking out about November and December.
Right?
Just going, I know it's coming. Winter is coming, right? So for you Game of Thrones people. Anyway, so Steve, what's the number one thing that gets in our way?
Us. And when I say us, what I'm referring to specifically is your limiting belief. You limit yourself between your ears, all by yourself. You tell yourself there's something that you cannot accomplish.
Yeah.
And you are limiting what you're going to get out of life. And until you find out what that belief is, and some of us have many beliefs, but a lot of us have one or two big limiting beliefs. And once you identify it and remove it, you are not going forward.
Right. Yeah. Mine was always, which we've talked about before, is, I always thought I was stupid, and because of that, I wouldn't take risks. I wouldn't put myself in intellectually challenging situations and things like that. How about you guys? What were yours?
Well, for me, go ahead, Derek.
No, I'm just digesting what you're saying and literally going, where do these beliefs come from? And it for some reason, Tom, you felt like you rode the short bus, but it's something had to create that. And I think that's what gets in contractors' way, and the belief in yourself and the belief whether you can do something. It goes back to your childhood, goes back to some sort of your relationship with some sort of significant other, your spouse, your parental units. It really does. It comes from our upbringings that just hamstrings us. And until, like Steve's saying, until you identify that, you can't even deal with it. So, Steve, I'll throw it back to you. You had some sort of identifying belief.
I believe that when you're born innocent and ignorant. Like, you don't know anything, right?
Yep.
And the way you start to know something is the adults, the people around you, start to teach you stuff. And that's what you know. And if there's stuff they're teaching you is hogwash, then hogwash is what you're going to know. If they're teaching you good stuff, like you really can achieve shit, then that's what you're going to know. And in my particular case, I came up not on the wrong side of the tracks, but in a not a very wealthy place. My old man was making $38,000 supporting 8 kids and a wife. That's today's money. Back then, that was $4,500 a year, supporting 10 people. So that tells you how wealthy I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I just thought this was my class. This is what I am resigned to for the rest of my life. This is a class like in India, they have a class society. This was my class, and this is how I'm going to grow up, until I got to hang out with the people at the country club. And I saw a whole different way of mindset, how they talked and walked and what they did, and how money to them wasn't an object. And I don't think it was the money that made them walk and talk and act and think like they thought. I think all that stuff came first and the money came second. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, there's a different life I can have. And from a very young age, and I'm telling you, from 12 years old, I just started to attract money. I just thought that was my new class. That's the class of society I wanted to be a member of. And even when I was a little kid, you know, my other 7 siblings, when they wanted to borrow $5, they came to Steve. Steve was the 13-year-old that had $5 because I cut grass and I walked the roads and collected bottles and went up to the grocery store and got a nickel for each one and that kind of, you know, I just always managed to scrap my way and kept a piggy bank.
So one of the biggest things that we talk about in the bridge is making money. And I know there's a lot of limiting beliefs around making money. We all have our own baggage and shit like that. But let me throw a question out to you guys. Is making money hard?
No, not at all.
No.
And I would say no as well. Was there a time that you believed it was? Because I did.
Yes, before I was 12 years old. Yes.
See, mine was different though, in the respect that I just watched my families always hustle. Every member in my family hustled. And there was always, I mean, mine is a little different because my family silver lined everything. So there is some limitations to silver lining everything because you just assume everything's going to be okay and everything will be fine. But I think a lot of that, it was the action taking that needed to take place. So there was a lot of optimism, almost too much optimism, but I always saw them hustle. So I think the limiting belief for me was just like, how much money can I make? I know I can work. I know I can hustle. And I grew up around a bunch of drug dealers, so I always saw those guys constantly working, constantly figuring stuff out, constantly manipulating, organizing. So it was just this really interesting. So my only limiting belief really was just, I don't really know what the number is. Tell me what the number is. Show me somebody that does it, and I'll just do that.
So I have a question, Tom.
Yeah.
To both of you. So how does the limiting belief relate to the Shin Fu? This very thing that we teach in the CSA.
Well, I'll go first. I think right out of the gate, it's you're competing with the belief that this is how it's always been done in the trades, right? This is how you sell jobs. You have to go out there. You got to tap dance. You got to be on their process, you know, and play their game. And oftentimes right out of the gate, the limiting belief is that a contractor, business owner, salesperson will come to us and they will struggle just considering for a moment that there could be a different way. That's how I see it. Derek?
So I feel we default to something. So whatever you've been around as a contractor is what you're just going to default to. Until you expose yourself to something new, it can't become a new default. Because if you just work with that core group and that it is what it is, you just believe what it is, and that's fine and all. But when you get around another group of higher level thinking people that are in the same trade as you, but just know that you can sell something for 1,000 versus 500, all of a sudden you start changing and you default to something new, and it just becomes your new process. But you have to be around those people, otherwise you're just going to stay there. So for me, it's just your default system. You default to how your dad told you what to do. You default to how your mom, your grandparents, whoever it is, that's just what you know. But when you believe that you can get around other people and implement, you got to put some effort in, obviously take some action and a little bit of time. All of a sudden you'll go, all those years I was selling it for 5,000. Who knew I could actually sell it for 8,000? So you got to get around other people. Otherwise you're just going to stay in the rut.
So I know we got a couple minutes left here today before we have to roll. I know we're up against our monthly training call in the bridge here, so we got to get going, guys. But let's maybe go around the horn here and share one bit of advice or whatever you have for somebody to overcome a limiting belief that they might have.
Well, I'll tell you the first time I remember I changed my limiting belief as to the way you had to sell. Now understand, I was 44 when I started my pond company. I've started several companies, but the swimming pool and the pond company were the two that hit my financial home run for me. And so somewhere at age, call it 54, 10 years into it, I still thought I had to go tap dance.
Yeah.
And the first phone call I ever made, I committed myself. I said, this is going to be a throwaway call. I am going through the 5 steps that I wrote down that are now today the Shin Fu, the 5-step process over the phone. And I'm going to go through these 5 questions that I have to ask this person. And I was scared shitless. I was walking back and forth. I was in a hotel room in Austin, Texas at the NCAA Swimming and Diving Championships, watching one of my kids, TJ, dive. And I was sweating. Now, I had, at 54 years old, I had been a millionaire for 24 years. So I want to put it in perspective, but I was still sweating like I was on a first date. And it was scary as because I knew the guy was going to reject me and he told me he had a $5,000 budget. I had a $9,000 project that started at $9,000, and he's like, Steve, we're so far apart. And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. This is the exact sentence I said. I said, if I come out there and I can convince you that what I got is worth $9,000, will you pull the trigger and buy it? He said, yes, if I could convince him. And that was a powerful statement because I never would have had the guts to say something like that. From that very second on, it changed my limiting belief that I could actually sell this stuff over the phone without even going out there. And if I am going out there, I got damn near 100% chance of coming home with a deposit check.
Love it. Derek, what do you got?
It's really simple, just what Steve's saying. I mean, well, actually, Tim Catroni said it. I don't remember what exactly I did, but I used a word track or something in the bridge, and it closed a deal. And Tim said, you know what? Now that Derek's done it, we can do it too.
I love it. So that actually goes kind of where my tip would be is share your limiting belief with a strong community. Like when you get around other people, you start realizing that you're not alone and that it could be overcome. It's like the whole 4-minute mile barrier, right? And so anyway, there's that, and it's really just about taking back control, taking ownership, not being a victim, refusing to be a victim, and understanding that when you get around other people, you see it could be done. And sometimes that's who you lean on, and that's totally cool. So anyway, guys, good hanging out today. Give us a review if you've enjoyed this podcast or any podcast episode we've ever done. We'd love the reviews just to help more contractors make more money and have a better life. If you want to learn more, head to contractorsalesacademy.com, and we'll see you guys next time.